Now that you've found a job to apply to, it's time to craft a compelling application packet. Today, I'm going to share some tips for tailoring your cover letter and CV to the specific position you're applying for. First, let's get started with just a couple of general tips. You probably already know this, but you need to address each letter to the specific school and department that you are applying to. You also need to include the specific position that you're applying to. Often, a department will have multiple search committees going on at the same time, and it makes it easier to ensure that they're matching the correct position and applications together. You can get help with keeping track of all this information in my job search tracker. I'll put the link for that in the description below. The second general tip I have for you is don't assume that anyone reading your materials knows all of the same organizations, awards, and so forth that you do. If you include information about an award or an organization, you need to completely spell out the name before you use any acronyms or abbreviations. You don't want the people reviewing your materials to read them and wonder, what is this and what does it even mean? You want people to be able to quickly and easily scan the letter and CV and understand all of the information that you have provided. They shouldn't need to Google something to find out what you're talking about. Now that we have the general bit of information, let's talk about a few things that you can do with your cover letter to stand out. First, you are going to want to ensure that you are only including information that is directly relevant to the position that you've applied to. One way that I make sure that my cover letter directly addresses information about the position is to use keywords from the actual job announcement and the application portal and put those key terms into my cover letter. I'm not talking about stuffing every single important word from the job announcement into your cover letter. I am talking about taking those most important parts. For example, what are they really looking for this position, including their list of preferred criteria for the applicant. I take some of those key terms, and even if I don't use that term specifically, I might use a synonym or restate or rephrase that word so that when someone on that search committee reviews my application packet, they see immediately in my cover letter that I have relevant experience, knowledge, and skills to cover the specific position that they need filled. You should include the information that is most important and directly relevant to the position that you've applied to. You need to also make it clear why the information that you're including is important. Why should the reviewer care about the information that you've shared? And is that clear in your letter? If not, you might need to do additional revising. For example, if you're applying for a position that is primarily a teaching position and it does not have any research responsibilities, I wouldn't make research a big part or even any part of the cover letter that I'm including. I would highlight my teaching impact and effectiveness in that cover letter. Likewise, if you're applying for a position that has a strong emphasis on research, then your cover letter needs to include information about your impact and your future potential for research, publication, grants, and so forth. Many people take their one CV that they've put everything they've ever done into, and then they submit the same one to every single position that's open. I'm going to tell you that it makes sense to do that. If every position you're applying to has the same emphasis and the same general expectations, then you can craft one CV and then submit that with every single application packet. On the other hand, if you're applying to positions that have different proportions of teaching, service, and scholarship required, you may want to tailor your CV to those specific positions. Generally, your academic credentials and work experience come pretty early on in the CV. After those opening sections, it's pretty flexible in how much information you include and what type of information and the order of information. But depending on the emphasis for the position, you can move pieces around. You can highlight something as more important by moving it earlier and including more details on that section. You can de-emphasize something by moving it later, providing fewer details, and just giving an overview. For example, you might decide to move information about your teaching experience and teaching awards to the forefront by placing those earlier in the CV and providing additional details. How many sections of courses have you taught? What were your general student ratings of instruction? If you have that data, you might decide to include that in a CV that you're sending for a teaching position. Whereas if the position requires research, as most tenure-track positions do, you'll probably want to ensure that information about your publications, grants, and presentations are prominently displayed. If you get a sense from the institutional's website information, you might want to include those bits of information in the order of importance that you recognize from their published evaluation criteria and documents. And yes, I look up an institution's tenure and promotion criteria before I apply to the position. In some fields, institutions, and departments, mentoring junior scholars, including graduate students at the doctoral, master's, or even undergraduate student level, is really important and a key to success in that institution. In that case, you'll want to ensure that your CV clearly indicates where you've collaborated with students and the type of student, if it was a graduate student or an undergraduate student. I have in no way made an exhaustive list of information on how to tailor your application materials for an interview, but I hope the few tips that I've given you have provided some help and assistance. I'm Kimberly J. Hale, Faculty Success Coach. Keep exploring.